Tea Party in space started about 6 months ago, but really started rolling about 4 months ago. What happened is as I was getting ready to retire from the Air Force, I realized that the Tea Party really didn't have a coherent space policy. In fact, neither the Democrats or the Republicans really have a coherent space policy. So what I decided to do was reach out to people inside NASA and their contractors and start seeing what is really affordable. Because the Tea Party movement inside America is about fiscal responsibility, limited government, and free markets. And so how can we have a space policy that is driven upon those three core principles? So from that, started talking to people inside the Tea Party as well as NASA and the contractors, and we really started a very big movement. It's actually nonpartisan. That you will never hear anything inside our Tea Party that speaks to social issues or anything like that. We don't put out email blasts speaking one way or the other. It's only space. So we've really started a grassroots movement, a political space grassroots movement that's very effective.
If you don't address any of the other sectors of public policy, why did you choose the name Tea Party in space?
I chose it because the policy that I'm writing, I'm specifically working with the Tea Party for. I saw a member of Congress say something about space that was not well formulated. Personally, my personal politics is I am a Tea Party member. In fact, I belong to 3 individual Tea Parties, one in Illinois, my home state, one in Virginia, where I now reside, and also one in Florida, where I retired from the Air Force. I believe in limited government, free markets, and fiscal responsibility. And that's where the policy is coming from. So I wanted to make sure that those politicians who are in the Tea Party caucus in Congress had something that they could actually go to. The problem with space policy, as I personally see it, is that we rely too much on powerful members of Congress who are in space states and in space districts. They sit on the appropriate committees and they sit there and say, this is what NASA's going to do. And unfortunately, what that's turned into is a personal slush fund for certain Congress people to go ahead and pad their bankrolls. And we don't want that. We want to achieve space settlement ultimately. So in order to do that, we need to start coming up with real, sound, reasonable, and practical things that we can do in space. And that's kind of how our platform rolls into that. How do we open up the free markets? How do we go ahead and have more commercial investment? With the retirement of the space shuttle, we have this giant, some people like to call it a standing army. I'm not sure I subscribe to that, because those people are incredibly smart and were designed, to do certain things for the shuttle. But we don't necessarily need those skills anymore. So instead of rebuilding a new Apollo model type structure, which is the Space Launch System, why not build those jobs in the private sector? So number one, the government doesn't have to pay for that. And number two, we produce jobs in the private sector, more tax revenues, and it's just the way to go in the future. So that's in a nutshell why I went with the Tea Party.
And specifically, how does the Tea Party platform inform space policy?
So what we did when I started working with the Tea Party, I originally called the website Tea in Space. And the reason for that was I wasn't officially accepted, or I didn't affiliate myself properly. I actually had to go through the Tea Party Patriots, which is the largest Tea Party movement in America. We have groups in all 50 states. We have a very structured hierarchy. And I went through them and I said, look, this is what I'm doing. Specifically, I worked with Everett Wilkinson in Florida, and we started putting this together. So now, after we built the platform, we're in the phase now where we're reaching out to other states, and we're building that organization so that not only in Florida and in Alabama, California, Utah, is that space policy going to have effect. We are going to have every Tea Party member who's running for Congress have a platform that has been vetted by the National Tea Party Patriots group, and it's going to make sense. It's going to be based on fiscal responsibility, limited government, and free market. And our congressmen and women and senators who are running for Congress are going to say, this is what we believe in. And it's not pie in the sky policy. This is so grounded, and it makes so much sense. I speak to both Republicans and Democrats as well as Tea Party members, and when they read this, they're like, are you for real? And yes, we are. So it's having a broad spectrum. It's going to take some time. I realize that. But I think we're really going to have an impact here in 2012 and beyond as we start to switch from a government space program. We'll always have that exploring, but really start to rely on the commercial sector, and we should.